Then there are something like variables where you can store some value. So let's say that you want to store a value in computer memory, which you
Mm-hmm.
want to use it at a later point of time for your business decision. Okay, let's say that you want to read my email address now, and after doing some evaluation at the last stage, you want to send me an email. So in order to send me an email, you need my email address, right?
Yeah.
And you have read my email address and you have stored that email address in memory, then that memory space where you're storing my email address is called as a variable. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Then generally in programming, it is called as CRUD, create. You can create something new. Read, you can read something which exists. Update,
Mm-hmm.
you can update something which exists. And delete, you can delete
Mm-hmm.
something which is already existing, right? So
Gabby, are you sharing another screen?
not sharing any screen.
Okay. Okay. No, I was
Yeah.
just making sure.
So I'm just explaining the overview of programming,
Yes. Yes.
right? So these are few things which we do in programming languages. So we either create things, we either read things, we either update or delete things. Okay, these are called as CRUD functions. Or you can also say CRUD function, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have loops. So in order to do something again and again, we have conditional. We evaluate a condition and do based on the result. Third is branching to move between steps as per the requirement. Fourth is storage, which is like storing something in memory called variables. Then you have these different kinds of function to create, to read, update, and deactivate or delete or whatever different things. So these are few concepts which you should be aware about before we can start workflow. Now,
Okay.
do you know why we use workflow?
Workflow is for automation, right?
Yes, it is for automation, but why do we use it?
Um, I just feel like we use it to make our job to go faster,
Okay,
look at
basically, why there is a need of an automation?
because you don't want to keep repeating things that you do every day.
Okay, so you don't want to do repetitive tasks, so you need an automation,
Yes.
and you would define some business logic, and that business logic would get done again and again, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that is one example. What is?
Um, that's all I can think about right now.
Okay, you do bank transactions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when you withdraw some amount from bank, you would see the bank account balance automatically decreases, right?
Yes.
If we did not have computers and automations, what would have done? There should be some person making an entry in the register and decreasing your amount manually, right?
Pen and paper.
Yeah. So what is happening is as soon as you withdraw some amount, there is an event which is created, like let's say withdrawal of amount.
Mm-hmm.
Based on that event, a workflow triggers, okay, or an automation triggers. So
Mm-hmm.
this automation is always listening for a withdrawal event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it might be that okay, if it is, let's say that if this workflow is running every 5 minutes, then there will be a gap of 5 minutes from your withdrawal and the bank account balance to decrease. But you see, it's instantly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how it happens instantly is because this workflow is listening all the time for any withdrawals made from the bank. And as soon as it sees a withdrawal event, it triggers itself. And then it does its business logic to decrease the bank balance, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there are events, there are types of automation which does repetitive tasks. There are types of automation which also listens for something to happen and then do the task. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are automations which will not trigger on its own unless you trigger it. Okay. Like you have seen buttons in websites, right?
Yeah.
Until you click on it, nothing happens. But once you click on it, whatever is the logic behind that button, that triggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are also examples of workflows. Then APIs, we did APIs, right? Okta API does not start creating users itself, right? Until and unless you trigger it.
Mm-hmm.
When you make a request, then it creates something or does something. So those are all trigger based. Trigger can be based on an event. Trigger can be based on a manual.
Yeah.
Triggers can also be scheduled. Let's say that I want to download a report every day at 5 p.m., right? Then
Mm-hmm.
I don't need someone to come and click on it, right? It should
Yeah.
automatically download the report at 5 p.m. So this is called as schedule based. Okay.
Schedule based. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So based on a schedule, it will trigger itself. So
Mm-hmm.
these are few things which we are going to see in our workflows, and Okta supports these different kinds of triggers.
Yes, I know about those schedule reports because like back in the days when I was doing business intelligence for SSIS, there's a way you just schedule all your reports for them to run like every 9 a.m. Monday morning.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So in order to access Okta Workflow, there are two applications in Okta called Okta Workflow. So if I go back to applications and if I search for workflow,
Mm-hmm.
you will see that there are two applications, Okta
Mm-hmm.
Workflows and Okta Workflows OAuth.
Mm-hmm.
You should be assigned to both of them to access
Mm-hmm.
workflow. Okay. So
Mm.
once you assign yourself to Okta Workflows, you can then click on this workflow tab and click
Mm-hmm.
on workflow console. Then
Yeah.
you would be able to go to Okta workflow console and see different workflows which you can create, right?
Yeah, I think what that the lady I'm working with this week, she gave me permission to this workflow console because I told her that I'll need to be practicing. She said, yeah, she gave me permission to just go look at it.
Correct. So this is the dashboard of workflow. It gives you different options to start with a template, or it also gives you an option to look at different things. Okay. So we will go to flows tab and we see that there are so many flows already created in my tenant.
Mm-hmm.
In your tenant, you might have more, less, or you might have zero. Okay. It depends upon if you have created something or not. So let's say I want to create a test workflow. Okay, first I'm switching this up.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore these, which is already there. Let's say I'll create a workflow. So I will need to create a folder like this. These are all called as folder. Okay. So if I say Sumit, I am creating a folder with my name, right?
Yeah.
And folder got created here. It has 0 workflows. Okay. Then I want to create a workflow. I can either use a template. Templates are nothing but Okta has already configured the entire business logic. You can just modify that logic to meet your requirement. So if you click on browse templates, you can see that there are so many demo workflow which Okta has already created. It says identify inactive Okta users. So this will try to loop through all the users in your Okta tenant and see who has not logged in less than 90 days. If they had not logged in last 90 days, then they are called as inactive users. Okay. Then let's say temporarily exempt users from MFA. In this case, you are adding user to a policy where they will not be challenged to an MFA. Okay. This says send a welcome email to new user of an application. So as soon as you assign an application to the user gets an email notification saying that, hey, you have been assigned to that application. Okay. Yes, no, maybe. Are you
Yes.
understanding? Okay. So these are different templates. Apart, if you don't want to use any of these templates, then you can also click on flows. You can go to your folder and then you can click on new flow. So this is going to let you create your own flow without using
Custom
any template.
flow.
Sorry.
That's a custom flow.
Yeah, it's a custom flow. Okay. So you can click on new flow and then it's blank. It has nothing. Okay.
Oh yeah. This is
Now,
where it's
yeah. So now you have to give a name to this flow. Currently, it is called as unnamed. So I will say send email to new users in Okta. So this, you can name it anything, right? Just to understand what this flow does. And I can describe it that this flow sends welcome email to all new Okta users. Okay. And I can click on save. Now this got a name and description. Now I want to tell Okta when and how this workflow is triggered. Trigger means how this workflow will start. Okay.
Yeah.
Until the workflow start, it will not do anything, right? So you have to tell Okta how to start. And I told you it can start on a schedule, or it can start on some event which happens, or it can manually be started, right? So these are different ways of starting a workflow. So let's say I want this to start based on something, some action which has happened in Okta. We call that as an event. We saw that in our system logs. Whenever
Yes.
something happens in Okta, a log is created, right? An event is created. So we can use those events to create our automation. So what
Okay.
log is created when you create a user in Okta?
An event is created when you create a user in Okta.
Yeah, so what event is created? What is that event? That event is called as user dot lifecycle
Life cycle.
dot create.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I see this, can you, if I start scrolling, can you see create Okta user?
Yeah,
event?
success. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was one user which got created on August 11th. And who created the user?
The actor is McLaughlin.
Okay. So Niall McLaughlin created the user. And who was the user who got created?
Neil Test.
Correct. So null test is a user who got created, and this event is create new user. So whenever you create a new user in Okta, a log like this is created, which is called as an event. So we can target an event like this. Okay. So we will go to our Okta workflows. We will say add event, and then it gives us a lot of option. Okay. It says that either you can schedule it. So it will run based on, let's say, every day 9 p.m. or every hour, whatever you want to schedule it as. You can make it as an API endpoint. In that case, using Postman, you can make an API call and that will start the workflow. Or you can use any of these apps event. So this event which you saw is an Okta event, right? This event is happening in Okta.
Okay, yeah.
But let's say I signed up in Google Gmail. That event is not shown in Okta, right?
Yeah.
That event is shown in Gmail. Let's say I posted something on a Teams chat. That event is shown in Microsoft Teams. It cannot be shown in Okta, right? Because Okta is not Microsoft Teams, correct?
True.
So Okta supports a lot of these apps. You can see there are so many apps. Any event which happens in any of these apps, you can still start your workflow. Okta can read events from these apps. Okta has some integration done with these applications. So whenever something happens in a Slack, or whenever something happens in Excel, or whenever something happens in Gmail, you can still trigger your workflow. Okay. For simplicity, let's say we are going to target Okta. So whenever something happens in Okta, we want to trigger a workflow. So we have to now tell what is that something which has to happen to trigger this workflow or start the workflow. And the event which we are looking for is create user.
Create
Okay.
user.
So I'm saying create. I'm searching for create, and it shows that there are so many options for create: user created, group created, application created, token created. So I want to select user created. So I want this workflow to start whenever a user is created in Okta. Okay. So I have selected. Now, once a user is created, Okta is going to provide us this many information: date and time when this event happened, message contains the event name like user created in Okta, then event ID, a unique ID to recognize this event. Event type we have already seen in our system log case. It's like a short name to filter our events, like user.authentication.sso to find all SSO event, user.lifecycle.create as we searched now,
Mhm.
right? These are all event types. Then version, it is
Mhm.
always going to be V1, okay?
Okay.
Then admin is nothing but the actor who triggered this event, right? Admin is actor here. So this actor is called as admin in workflow. So who is
Admin.
our admin? Niall McLaughlin is
Login.
our admin, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
he is our admin. Here it will be the user ID of Okta for the actor. It is the
Mhm.
user name of actor. It is the display name of actor, and this is a user type of actor. Okay.
Mhm.
If I'm not sure if how aware you are about the profile editor, if you go to profile editor,
Yeah.
then there is something called Okta user type. You can create a user type. By default, this is a user type available, and this is the type ID. Okay.
Mhm.
Then Okta user is nothing but the target, the user who got created. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So when the admin is the one who created this user, and Okta user is the user who got created. Again, you have the same information: ID of the user, username of the user, display name of the user, and type of the user. And these are all log details: UUID of the user to sorry UUID of the log to track the log, event details, any specific details about this particular event like IP address or something. You can get
Mhm.
all this from here. Okay. Debug context is nothing but what request was made, what response was shared, all of these as a raw format. Okay. So these are your uh, information which Okta will give you whenever a user is created to this workflow. Now, what is our requirement? What do we want to do achieve here using this workflow?
With this workflow, we want to trigger an event whenever a user has been created.
Whenever a user is created, you want to trigger a workflow. And what
Yeah.
is that workflow you want to, what is that, what do you want to do when the workflow is triggered?
What we want to do,
Yeah,
we want it to send us an email.
correct. We understand an email. So we have to design a logic like this. User
Okay.
created, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the next step we want to do? We want to find user's email,
Mm-hmm.
right? Find user email. And what is the third thing we want to do is send an email, right?
Send an email. Yeah.
So these are the steps we want to perform
Mm-hmm.
serially, right? So this is step one. This is step two. And this is our step three. My handwriting is not good.
Let me mine is back.
This is our step three, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to do this serially. We don't want to send an email first and then read a user email. Can we do that?
No.
Right. Because in order to send an email, we need to know the user email first, right?
Yes, before I can
And
send the
and
email.
when we want to send an email, whenever user is created, so this has to go as first only. This cannot go as second or third, right? So it
Yeah.
has to be in a serial function. So that is why it is called as Okta workflow is like serial wise function. It's not an object oriented. It is object oriented, but it's not 100% object oriented. It
Mhm.
function modularity. It follows serial wise function execution. So whatever you have declared in Okta workflow, it will be done step one, step two, step three. So let's say you have 5-step workflow, and at step three some error happened. Then step four and step five will not be triggered. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so it breaks at step three because you had an error at step three.
Yeah.
So it follows step-by-step instructions. So this is what a workflow will be doing. So based on this paint diagram, what is our next action?
To convert it now to since we have our logic to convert it now to flow.
I didn't get you.
No, as since we have our logic now, we need to convert it now to the flow.
Yeah, so what is the next thing? We have already started creating our flow, right? So is this
Yeah.
created? Is this done?
Yes, the first one is done. We have our
First one
user
is done,
created
right?
already.
So
Yeah.
what is our next step?
Next, we need to find our user's email.
Find our user email, right? So in
Yeah.
order to find our user email, what we need to do is remember our Postman class. That's why I told you APIs are very important for our APIs and logs. These are very important for our Okta workflow. How would you find a user email through API?
How do you find a user email? API.
So you go to users collection, right? There is something called get user.
Get
You
user.
see this?
Okay. Yeah.
What does it require? Get user. Get user. See, if you don't pass any information, then it will get all the users in
Oh,
Okta, right? But I told you if you pass an user ID after this, then it will only get that user, right?
yeah.
So we need to use this API to get our user. We don't have to design this API 100% what we have done in Postman. There are all those APIs already designed in Okta workflows. So you click on add an app action. Why we are clicking on add an app action is because we are making an API call of Okta, and Okta is considered as an application. Okay. Okay.
Oh,
So
so we
we
don't
will
do
click on
permission.
add app action and we
Uh,
select Okta. Okay. Now it has
Yeah.
all the action which we can do in Okta. What I want to do is I want to read an user. Okay. So reading an user will provide me all the attribute of that user, including his first name, last name, primary email, secondary email, whatever, right? And that will give us the email address of the user. Is this right or not?
Yes.
Right? So it is
Yeah.
saying that it needs user ID or username to search that
Yeah.
user. And what is the output you want? So do we need all of these values? What is the value we need to send an email?
One more time again.
Like what are the value you need after you have found the user? What are the values you need to send an email?
We, we just need just email. So we'll do the
Correct.
system
So,
properties credential, right?
so we will uncheck all of these check boxes and we will just select email. Okay, primary email which we need. Okay,
Uh-huh.
that's the only information you need to send an email, right?
Yes.
Do you need any other information?
No, no, no. No.
Okay, then what will you write in your email body? How would you
Um,
say that, hi Elvis, welcome to our team? How would you know who is the user? Email is okay, fine. You can send an email to that email address. But how would you say which team this user is onboarded to, or what is the first name, last name of the user? Do you want to greet the user or not? If you want to say that, hi Elvis, welcome to our new team for web development, then you need to know the name of the user, right?
yes.
And you also need to know the team this user is part of, correct?
Mhm.
So let's say I would also select first name. I would only greet the first name. I will not use complete name. Okay, I would only greet with first name. So I selected first name. These are called as fields. Okay. These different things which you're selecting, these are called as fields. This is the input. This is the required information you need to pass to search that user. Without searching the user, you cannot find the values for the user, right? So you need to pass something, some information to search the user, and then what information do you want as an output? These are called as fields. So we selected our two fields, first name and primary email. Okay, these are nothing but attribute of Okta. Okay, if you go to any user's profile, you will see that these are the different attributes. Okay, so these are the attributes. These are called as fields in workflow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I
Okay.
selected this and I'll click on save. Now it is saying enter the ID or username
Log.
of the user whom you want to search.
Mhm.
Now, for me, I want to send the email whenever a new user is created. So I don't know the email address of the user now, and it should keep on changing because whenever a new user is created, they will have a different email address, right?
Yeah.
So how do I say that you should know the email address of the user or ID of the user, what information do we already have in previous step? When this event triggered, what information are we getting?
A user has been created, so we can get the user ID. Since each user being created is going to generate a unique ID.
Correct. So we are going to drag this ID here. Okay. So we are saying whenever this event is created and Okta provide us this information, take the ID of the user and search with this ID. Okay.
Ravi, how did you drag? Let me see.
Yeah, you can just, okay, I'll remove this first. Okay. So you just click on it and drag it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So once you drag it, then you would be able to, so now this is dynamic value, right? We are not specifying any static value like 1, 2, 3, 4. The ID would change as per the log. Okay. So
Yeah.
now it will be able to search a user with this ID and give us first name and last name. Sorry, first name and email address of the user. Then what is our next step as per the diagram? What is the next step as per this diagram?
Send email now.
Yeah, so we need to send an email. Now, in order to send an email, what are the different ways to send an email? We can use Microsoft Outlook. You can use
Yahoo,
Gmail,
Gmail.
Yahoo, right? These are the different email applications you have to use, right? So these are also
Yeah.
applications, right?
Yeah.
You select add app action. And let's say that you select Gmail.
Email, yeah.
Okay. And Gmail does not support sending an email, so we're going to go back. So we can try to use Office 365 mail. Okay. So there is an email from Office 365 also. Let's try that. Do you see any Office 365?
Yes, yes. Office 365 on your left-hand side.
No, that is
Left.
admin.
Oh.
I want to send an email from Office 365. So I want to just check where is that Office 365.
No, close to. Oh yeah, that's admin. That's sure. That's sure.
Oh, sorry, I am filtering and that's why. Okay, oh, sorry. If I select Gmail now, yeah, I can see all the values. I had typed read, that's why I only showing read. So I want to send an email, right? So I would select send email.
Okay.
Send email is selected. It is asking us to authenticate. This is not authenticated, so I will not use this. What you have to do is whenever you use these applications, you have to first authenticate to that application, right? So I have to click on this. It will take me through authentication step and I can authorize myself, but I don't want to authorize now. So I will use something which is already authorized like Office 365, okay? And I can use this also to send an email.
Yeah.
And I can then send an email. Okay. Now, what are the different information it needs to send an email?
We need the recipient email address and
Yeah. So
subject.
how will we get? This is the recipient email address. This is the output we're getting from this step, right?
Yes.
So I will drag this to the two. Is CC BCC required? No. CC and BCC are optional. You can put some values. If you don't have any values, you can just ignore it also. Okay. Then subject. What will be the subject of the email? I can say that welcome to team. Okay. Right? Any questions so far?
No, so far I'm good.
Okay. Body is the actual email which you want to send to someone. Okay. So I would want to say that hi, welcome to the team. Short email. Okay. Shortest email of the world. Then you have to select message type. An email can be sent either like a text email, which will have no images, nothing, or it can be an HTML email where you can have images, bullets, tables, right? You have seen emails containing images and bullets and formatting, correct?
Yes.
So those are called as HTML email. So I'll just select HTML email. I am not sending any attachment, okay? And my workflow is complete. I can save this workflow.
So if we save the workflow now, we can see if there's any error, should in case something is wrong with it.
Sorry.
It's going to tell us. So if this workflow, for example, has an error, it's going to indicate to us when we try to save it, right?
Yeah, it will highlight that particular error as red. Error as in only in syntax error, not in logical errors. If you have a logical error, it will not highlight. If
Okay.
it's only have a syntax error, let's say it does not support text, it only supports number, but you have entered text, then it's a syntax error. But if it's a logical error, then it is not going to show. Then you have to do the troubleshooting. Okay. So I have saved this workflow. If I go back to my flow, I see this is yet not enabled. It is off. So I have to switch it on. Now it is on, activated workflow. Now anytime a user, it's always listening. Okay. It is always listening for an event. And what event it is listening for? User created event, right? So if I create any user now, this workflow will trigger. So if I click on add person, like I said, Sumit test workflow, then I can say Sumit test workflow. Sorry, Sumit test workflow at example.com, right? Or I can just also put my personal email address, so I can also show you that email receipt. Otherwise, I will not be able to show you, right? Secondary email, I'll not say anything. Groups, no. Password and all that. I will not send any activation email to the user. Okay. I click on save. Now this user is created. You agree with me or not? Yes, no. Hello. Hello. You there? Elvis?
Yes, Gavi, I'm listening.
Did you understand?
Yeah, I didn't get that last point.
I said I created this user.
Yes.
So this should have an event in my system log, right?
Trigger, yes.
Yes. And if you see that there is an event, this is a user who created this user, right?
Yes, this workflow.
And if I now go to my workflow, and if I go to flows, you should see that it has run few times, right? 43 seconds ago. If I go to flow history, then it will tell me whether this run was successful or error. So it says success, right? Correct?
Yeah, so this is where we also see failures too.
Yeah, it will also show failures too. But as of now, it is not showing me the details of who was the user, anything, because there is something called save data. I have not enabled save data, so I have to click on enable save data and save the data. So from the next time, if this workflow triggers, it will also show me who was the user. Currently for this workflow, I have no record, but I created this user. And if I go and search for this user, I can see this user in my Okta, right? And what should have happened now? An email should have been triggered, right, to this user on this email address. Correct? So if I show you that email which I received, would you believe it or not?
I'll believe.
Why would you believe without seeing it?
Because we created a flow already, so
so can you see this?
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to the team. So this
Welcome
triggered.
to the team. Yeah.
Right? But it does not say my name.
Oh yeah, we didn't put any name on the body.
Correct. So because we did not had any name here in our flow, we just said hi, welcome to the team.
Yes.
If we want to put a name, how do we get a name? We have name here, right? If I drag this, you see everything is removed and only name is there then. So this is not the right, correct? So we need to do some hack here. What will that hack be? I will go to plus, and this time instead of saying apps, I have to do something called as function. Okay. And I will select text, and there is a function called compose. So compose, enter free form text and optionally drag fields into your text like a mail merge. So compose lets us create our free form text. Okay. So I want to create a text which says, hi, Elvis, welcome to the team, or something, whatever I want to send as an email. So I have selected compose, and I will say that, hi, and I will drag this first name. Okay. So now it knows the first name, and then I can say, welcome to the team. Okay. And instead of sending this or typing anything here, I can drag this output and I can add this to the body. So what happens? This card, these are all called as card. This is card 1, card 2, card 3, card 4. Okay. So this card is getting an input from its previous card, and it's generating a text, and that text is the output, and this output is sent to this last card, correct? What is the type of the output? It's a text output. AA is text. Okay. If you want to rename this output from output to something else, I can say that email body. Okay, that all you can name it this anything. So this, so that you can know what output this is, right? And I can send this as a body. If I save this now, what will happen? What is the output? What is the outcome of this workflow? Like, what do you expect this workflow to do now?
To send a complete email which includes the body.
So will it send an email for this user?
Yes.
Why? When will this workflow trigger?
The workflow will trigger when a user has been created, right?
Yes. So, but this user is already created, right? This user is not created. So this will not send any email now. You have to create another user to send an email.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't have any other email address. So what I will do is I will first delete this account. Okay. So that I can reuse this email address, right? So I will deactivate the account and then I'll delete the account. I'm not sure if you know, we cannot directly delete accounts. So first we have to deactivate and then delete an account. Okay.
Delete it, yes.
So I'll click on add person. I create another user called Sumit Workflow Test User. Username, I'll put again the same. And I'll click on save. So this user is created, right? And we also enabled save data. So there should be something in flow history.
Yes.
And you can see that is success, right?
Oh, it's gone. Yeah.
And now if you see, this is the log which this workflow received. So this is the date and time of when this, what is the message create of the user. This is the event ID. This is the actor who created this user. So Sumit Tiwari created the user. Which user got created? You can see here, Sumit Workflow Test User is a user who got created. And there are a lot of details about this log. What are we reading from this? We are reading the ID of the user, right? So this is the ID of the user. Using this, it is able to find the user. This is the first name of the user, and this is the email address of the user, right? So it is sending this email address to this card, and it is sending the first name to this card. And what is the output of this card? Hi, Sumit Workflow. Welcome to the team, right? This is the output. And this output is sent to this last card. So I should have received an email again, correct? And what that email should say? That email should say,
hi, Sumit, welcome to the team.
Hi, Sumit Workflow. That is my first name. Sumit Workflow is my first name. So it says, Hi, Sumit Workflow. Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
Isn't this crazy?
This is nice.
Nice, right?
It's interesting. Yeah.
So what are the things we need? Okay, tell me, what are the different ways a workflow can get started or triggered?
What are the different ways a workflow can be triggered?
Yeah.
Wait, Ravi, ask that question again.
How a workflow starts, or when will this workflow send an email?
When you have an event.
Event, right?
Yes.
So the event-based workflow, that is one way of triggering an event. What are the other ways we can start a workflow?
Other ways we can start our workflow.
I told you, right? There are multiple ways how we can start a workflow. Event is one way. When some event happens, a workflow started. That's one way. What are the other ways?
We can also trigger our workflows.
Okay, so that is called as a manual trigger. Okay, what is other ways?
Schedule.
Schedule, correct. What are other ways?
Um, um,
So manual run by an admin. You said
Mhm.
schedule. You said event. What is
Yes.
what is other way?
I remember it told me about another one.
You can create an API endpoint, and like how you called Okta API, you can call your workflow as an API, right? Through Postman.
Yes. Postman.
So,
Yeah.
so these are different ways how your workflow can trigger. Okay. Once your workflow has triggered, then only your workflow will do the things it requires to do. Okay.
Okay.
All right. What else do you want to know?
Man,
Mhm.
this workflow really looks interesting. Because
Right.
the one when I go into an environment, the one that I see, man, when I see that complicated thing like this, I just get frustrated because I've never learned about it.
Yeah, so that's why we will do the complicated thing. But before that, we will start with simple things. So this is a simple workflow. Whenever somebody is created in Okta, it is going to send an email, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are the other? Let's say that when somebody's manager changes, I want to send an email to the user that hey, your manager is updated. So what will be my logic? Let's first create the logic here. How can I design a workflow to say somebody's manager has changed? Tell me step by step instruction. Step one.
That
How do
somebody's
you know that somebody's manager has changed? Event, right? What is that
yeah.
event? User updated. So whenever you
Yeah.
change something in user profile, or if it's a manager, phone number, email, first name, last name, these are all called as a user update. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the event which will trigger the workflow. Okay. What will happen next? What do we want to achieve with this workflow? Whenever someone's manager changes,
Yes.
what will happen?
For that event to be triggered, like
Mhm.
all the users under that manager to be for your manager to be
No, first of all, how will you know that what update was done to the user? Because as per our event, user updated. So even if you update the first name, this workflow will trigger, right?
yeah.
But you don't want to send an email when a first name is changed. You only want to send an email when the manager is changed. So how do you know that a manager is changed, first of all?
When
So this, yeah.
the
So this
first
event which
event,
will trigger, right, user updated, it has an attribute called changed attribute. So you have to read changed attribute from event. Okay.
Mhm.
And what you have to do next is you have to then check if the attribute is manager attribute, right?
Mhm.
Then what is the fourth step?
Check if the attribute is
What is the fourth step?
read change
If
attribute.
true, if manager attribute is changed, then send email, right? If
Yeah.
false, then do nothing,
Yeah. With them. Yeah.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the event which should happen. Any change in user profile should trigger the workflow. Then we will check if the change attribute was manager attribute or not. If it was a manager attribute, then send an email. If it was not a manager attribute, then do nothing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There can be two scenarios. Either you can do nothing, or you can then say that, or let's say if you want to send an email still saying that your manager was not changed, your first name was changed, your last name was changed, that is called as else. Okay.
Or
So,
else, if
and if
else, then
yeah, and if can be a standalone if that If something happens, you want to do. If something does not happen, you want to do nothing. Then it's called as standalone if. It's only if, there is no else. But
Mhm.
if you want to do an action, if this happens, you want to do step one. If this does not happen, then you want to do step two. Then there is something called as else. Okay, so if your condition established to false, then the else condition will trigger. Okay,
Mhm.
so those are the two ways. So in Okta workflow, if else are called as if else. If it's only if, there is no else, then it is called as continue if. Okay, continue if
Continue.
says I will only move ahead if this is true. If this is false, I will do nothing. Okay,
Mhm.
so these are the two ways how you can define your if. So let's create another workflow. What workflow we want to create? I'll switch off this workflow first.
Um,
What should be the name of our workflow?
Wait, you want us to create this one now? That we just
Yeah.
made the
Yeah.
okay. Manager change.
Okay. So I will say send email when
Email, sorry.
manager changed. Okay. And I will save all the inputs which is being passed data so that I can see it in flow history. Okay.
Yeah.
And okay. So when should this workflow triggers? As per our logic, when should this workflow trigger?
When there's when an event any manager update.
No, that is not our event. Whenever the user is updated.
Oh, whenever the
We
user
don't
is
know. Okay.
wait.
How would Okta know if a manager is changed? Okta, there is no event called change manager. There is an event called a user is updated, right? So even if you change first name and not the manager, a user is updated, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that is what is your event. You have to target an event which is user is updated. And where is
Okay.
user located?
Okay. So Ravi, let me backtrack. Anything, if they want to do something like about manager, is it like create? Is it gonna be like when user created, user deleted, user updated, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
That's why I told you there are only four functions: create,
Yeah.
read, update, and delete. So
Delete.
these are
Okay.
the four functions. Now, from these four functions, we will get some more information from log. We will use those information, but these are the only four functions available.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So just from these four functions. Okay.
So what is our event?
User updated.
Okay. And where is user residing? Where is user updated?
In Okta.
Correct. It is updated in Okta. So we will select Okta here.
Okta. Yes.
And we will select user updated.
Yeah, updated. Yeah.
Okay. So it says user Okta profile updated, right?
Yes.
I will select that.
Mhm.
Now it will give us information. Okay. So if you go to Okta user and if you go to this one, you will see there will be some information to tell you what attribute updated. And if you see there is an attribute called change
attribute. Yes. Change
So it will
attribute.
tell it. So it will tell us which particular attribute got updated. So which attribute should we target as per our logic? We should compare, right? We should compare if this attribute value is the manager attribute. Okay.
Yes. So that's
Okay.
gonna be.
So let's save this. We'll continue this further later. Let's say first save this. So what will happen? When will this workflow trigger? Whenever there is an update in user profile. Okay.
Yes.
What it will do nothing, even if there is an update. It will just trigger the workflow and workflow does nothing, right? I have only added an event that says user Okta profile updated. I have not added any other logic, right?
Perfect.
So it will basically do nothing. I have activated this workflow. So workflow is on, right? If I update this user which I created, if I update this user, okay, if I go to his profile, if I update the middle name,
Yeah.
this should trigger the workflow. Yes, no.
Yes, it's going to trigger the event, but nothing will happen.
Yeah, correct. So it is going to trigger a workflow. So if you refresh,
yes, We
it
say
should
success.
trigger the workflow. You can see success, right? So the workflow
Yeah.
was triggered. You
Mhm.
can see who was the actor. This was the actor who changed something, right? What was the
Yes.
event? User updated, right?
The update profile. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the change attribute? Which attribute got changed?
Middle name.
Middle name. And what is middle name here?
Kumar.
No, this attribute, right? Kumar is
Yeah,
a value. So what is the attribute name for manager?
manager. Let's see.
This is the attribute name.
Manager. Yes, manager.
Right?
Manager.
This is the attribute name. So you copy this attribute. You
Mhm.
go to your workflow. Go to your
Mhm.
flow and add something. What you want to do is you want to compare the value here
Uh-huh.
if this is manager or not, right?
Uh-huh.
And I told you, if this is manager attribute, then only we are sending an email. If this is not a manager attribute, then we are doing nothing, right? This is our
Nothing.
requirement.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if we are doing nothing, then we will use a card called continue if. It only moves ahead if something is true. Okay.
Mhm.
If I want if I wanted to do something else, if this was not manager, if it was middle name, I want to do something else, then I would have used a card called if else. Okay.
Mhm.
So there are two cards, and if else or if this is nothing to do with any application. Okay.
So it's function.
Yeah, it's a function. So I click on
Yes.
add function, and
Mhm.
you can see there is continue if. It says stop the
Mhm.
flow if a condition isn't true. Okay. And it is part of
Mhm.
branching. Then it says if else, specify a different action to run based on whether or not a single condition is true, right? And
Yeah.
it is also part of branching. So which one we will use? Our logic is if it is manager, do something. If it is not manager, do nothing. So whenever
Yes.
we have do nothing, we will go with continue if. Okay.
Mhm.
Now it is asking us to specify a condition. What is our condition? We have to check if this value, if this
Because
attribute which got updated is manager or not. Okay.
equals to manager. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will drag this attribute here, value A equal to, and what is
Manager.
the attribute name for the manager?
Manager.
Manager,
Manager.
right? So I can, and it says if this is not true, what message do you want to send? I can say that flow will not work further because changed attribute is not manager. So whenever this is not manager, this is something other attribute, it will just throw this message. Okay.
Mhm.
And if it is a manager, then what it will do is it will send an email, right?
Mhm.
Send an email to whom? Who should it
So
send an email?
if it is not true, we send an email to the users.
Correct. We need to send an email to the user. And what do you need to send an email to the user? What information do you need about the user to send an email to the user?
Email.
Email, right? Are you getting the
Yeah.
email from your log?
Yes.
Where are you getting email from your log?
You getting your email from your event, right?
From event, you are not getting an email. You're getting ID, you're getting username, you're getting display name, you're getting type. You're not getting an email.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
how do I get an email?
alternate ID. Let me see. You get your email from
We did it in our last flow. There is a card, right? Called read user.
application. Yeah.
Read
Yeah.
user, right? So I have to
Yes.
read this user and find the email of the user. Okay.
Yes.
I will
Yeah.
deselect all of these cards and I will select primary.
Yes.
Now it is asking which user to search. So we will select this ID and drop it here. So we say search the user with this ID and get me the email address.
So
Then I can say
Ravi, you call this a card? Is that what you call it?
it's card, CARD.
Oh,
This.
card.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I want to send an email, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I will say send an email. And who do I want to send an email? Sorry, not this one. I want to send an email through Office 365. Send email. Whom I want to send an email? To this email address, right?
Yes.
What do I want to say? Manager changed.
Mhm.
I can say, hey, your manager is changed, right?
Mhm.
And now I can save this.
Yes.
I will save like this with HTML. Save this. Okay. Now if I go to this user profile and if I update a zip code,
Mhm.
what will happen?
You receive an email.
So first it will trigger an event, right? Let's start.
Yes.
So it will first trigger an event here. So it says update user application property, right? This event was triggered.
Yeah.
Update
If
user profile for Okta, right? So I
Mhm.
would expand this event and it will tell me who triggered this event, Sumit, right? For which
Yeah.
user was it triggered? For this user, this was triggered, right? And it has
Yeah.
all the event. The same event will be here also, right? So if I go to
Mhm.
flow history, you see that something has happened here.
Success.
So this is success. This event got triggered. Which attribute was changed? If you go to change attributes,
Zip code. Yes.
okay. And is it equal to manager?
No. So it failed.
So it did not fail. No, fail is when you error. So it stopped.
It
Okay.
did. Yeah. Just stop.
It
It did not because we
stopped.
had that condition.
It did not trigger this. It did not trigger this. So these two
Yes.
last cards did not get triggered. It stopped here
Yeah.
because we say only continue if this
If
value is equal
yes.
to this value, right?
True. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
clearly it is not. So it
Yeah.
says
Our
the flow
condition
will
was not
not
met.
go further because change attribute is not manager, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now if I go to this user and change the manager, then what will happen?
So it's gonna go. It's gonna go successful. It's gonna go completely because our condition now is met. It's equals to manager change. So
Correct. So if I click on edit and if I now provide a manager value,
Mhm.
let's say Aniket,
Elvis. Oh.
okay?
Mhm.
So my manager is Aniket now, right?
Yeah.
So this should have triggered the workflow. If I refresh this,
Mhm.
our workflow should have been triggered. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Yes, it
Yes.
has yet not triggered. It will, let's give it a second. It got triggered now, right?
Triggered.
And oh no. Oh, okay, yeah. It got triggered now. And what was the change attribute?
Manager.
And is manager equal to manager?
Yes.
So this came here, right?
Yes.
It read my email address.
Yes.
It then sent an email. What was the
Yes.
email sent?
Okay. Hi, your manager is changed.
Okay, so if I go to my Gmail, will it send me an email?
Perfect. It's gonna be there.
It sent me an email, right?
Yeah. Oh man. This one I need to practice this one. No sleeping.
Correct.
No
So,
sleep.
so this is how you will need to practice. Now,
This Mhm.
start practicing this. I will not do anything further because it will become very confusing if you start any advanced topic in workflow. So I'll leave it to the simple things. Practice this kind of simple logic. I showed you two logic, you will derive 100 logics, okay? And
Yeah.
create these kind of workflows. I'll send you an email with few assignments. Try to
Oh,
complete those assignments.
okay.
And we will
Okay.
connect on Monday if that's okay.
Okay. No problem.
All right. Any
Yeah.
question, doubt, anything?
Mm, I have doubt, but wait, let me first watch the video. I don't want to sound dumb right now. Let me
Sure.
first watch this video. Please, if you can send me this video so that I can watch it every like 2 times tomorrow, then I try to do that homework. I know I'll come back with questions, a lot of them.
Sure. No problem.
Yeah. I want to start using those words that you use. Like I see how you call that thing cat or this. Yeah.
All right. So I'll send you the assignment and the video. Please
Uh-huh.
practice. You have Sunday entire day. You want to go out, please go out, but also please practice.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I'll stop recording now.